Captain, we've got something. Ensign Wallace's voice cracked through the comms like a jolt. Unencrypted. Wideband distress signal. Origin. Outbound vector from Neptune's shadow. Captain Oliver Stan turned from the holochart on the command platform of the Kestrel, his jaw tightening. Play it. A hollow hiss filled the command deck, then a flicker. Static. A face. Not human. The alien's skin was pale mauve, thin and cracked, his wide-set eyes a cloudy silver. Blood matted one side of his face. Behind him, sparks danced across a ruined bridge. "This is Commander Terrell of the Ark vessel Yevdra, under the protection of the Galactic Council," the alien gasped, swallowing panic. "We are non-combatants. We carry refugees, hundreds, children, civilians from dozens of systems. The Uthvark are upon us. They do not discriminate. They do not negotiate." A shudder rocked his frame. Behind him, someone screamed. Smoke billowed across the feed. "We have no weapons, please. If any species receives this, please. We ask only for time to run. Help us. Help us." The message cut with a spike of static. The bridge of the Kestrel fell silent. Stan's hand hovered above the console, then curled into a fist. "Origin of the message?" he asked sharply. ".9, outer orbit range beyond Triton. Vessels in pursuit. Confirmed Uthvark signature. 4 ships, heavy class," Wallace replied, sweat blooming on his brow. Stan's jaw clenched. Everyone knew the Uthvark. Carnivorous bipeds, over 2 meters tall, with thick carapace armor and bioluminescent streaks across their skulls, genetically bred for conquest, indoctrinated in an ideology of dominance. Dissidents of the Galactic Council. No subtlety, no mercy. Protocol-dictated non-interference. Earth hadn't been part of galactic politics for decades, but the sound of those screams still rang in Stan's ears. He keyed his command line. "Commander O'Connell, prepare intercept course. Full power to forward thrusters. We're going in." A sharp intake of breath from Wallace. "Captain, that's a direct breach of EarthGov protocol." "I'm aware," Stan cut him off. "Those aren't just aliens running. They're people, and that's enough." He turned toward the ops console. "Signal EarthGov, priority 1. Get me Chancellor Klein, now." Klein's face appeared on the encrypted comms a minute later, drawn and sharp, his office dimly lit behind him. Oliver. This had better be more than a rogue pirate raid. Stan didn't waste time. "I just received a council distress signal. Refugees under attack by Uthvark, hundreds aboard. Civilians. We're the only vessel close enough to intervene." Klein leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "And?" "I'm already en route." There was a beat. Then Klein exhaled slowly, pressing fingers against his temple. "You just violated non-engagement statutes that held for over 30 years. Stan's voice stayed level. "Then let this be the first crack in the dam. I'm not letting those bastards slaughter unarmed civilians while we stand here quoting protocol." Klein didn't respond immediately. He looked off screen, likely toward advisors. Voices whispered in the background. Then, "Understood. You'll have moral cover. But don't expect the council to back you up if this spirals." "I'm not doing this for politics," Stan said. "I know," Klein replied. Then, after a pause, "Godspeed, Captain. Do what needs doing." The line went dead. The Kestrel thundered through space, its dark frame knifing through Neptune's shadow. The Ark ship Yevdra was a speck against the black, smoke venting from its flank, listing hard. Then the Uthvark arrived. 4 vessels, massive and jagged like rusted blades, emerged from stealth. War barges coated in jet-black plating and lit by pulsating crimson engines. Their design was harsh, no curves, just brutal lines and armor. Each ship bore the insignia of the Uthvark, a red spiral flanked by fanged sigils. "Contact! They're painting us!" shouted O'Connell from Tactical. "Shields up!" Stan snapped. "Evasive pattern Delta. Bring forward cannons online." A heartbeat later, the void exploded. Beams of plasma and kinetic rounds ripped through the darkness. The Kestrel shuddered, a glancing blow tearing through the outer hull plating on starboard. Fire suppression systems kicked in immediately. "Return fire," Stan growled. Blue light lit up the bridge as the Kestrel fired its primary cannons. 2 rounds connected with the closest Uthvark destroyer, shearing off a wing-mounted turret. It didn't slow them. "Incoming on all vectors," O'Connell warned. "They're targeting the Yevdra." "Block their line of sight," Stan ordered. "If they want those refugees, they'll have to burn through us first." The Kestrel rolled into the fray, interposing itself between the Ark ship and the attackers. Explosions rocked the hull. Alarms wailed. "Direct hit, Deck 3, Wallace called. "We've got decompression. Seal it! Triage teams, move!" The bridge trembled. Sparks rained from overhead. Stan grabbed the railing, steadying himself. His voice cut through the chaos. "Focus all fire on their command vessel. Force a retreat." Suddenly, a sharp beep. Wallace looked up. "Captain, we're receiving encrypted signals. Not from EarthGov. They're from other human ships." Stan moved toward the comm station. "Play it." A voice crackled in. "This is Captain Seamus Leone, Midnight Flame. We picked up your comms. You're not alone out there." Another followed. "Captain Halford Thunderous. We've held our line long enough." "Say the word, Stan." More followed. Aurora, Crest, Blackstar. Dozens of captains. Men who'd worn the same Earthfleet insignia. Men who remembered what it meant. Stan's throat tightened. He keyed back into the signal line. "Hold your positions. I'll call it when it matters most." Then he turned back to the screen, watching the Uthvark push in harder. The air stank of ozone and burning metal. The floor trembled beneath them as another shot hit the hull. But the line held. For now. A sharp burst of static cracked across every broadcast frequency on Earth. Then came the Chancellor's face, pale, sunken-eyed, and unshaven. Malcolm Klein looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. His dark blue suit was wrinkled, the collar loose, as if he'd torn it open minutes before going live. "This is Chancellor Malcolm Klein. I address not just the Earth Council, but every citizen of Earth." He didn't blink, didn't waste a breath. Earlier today, Captain Oliver Stan, commander of the Kestrel, intercepted a distress call from a Galactic Council vessel carrying refugees, hundreds of them, civilians. They were under attack by Uthvark forces. The screen behind him lit up with blurry footage. The bridge of the alien ship. Screaming. Smoke. Children with translucent skin and glowing veins clutching each other. The mauve-skinned commander, Terrell, bleeding from the scalp as debris rained down around him. Make no mistake, this is what they do. They don't ask questions. They don't take prisoners. They burn everything in their path. Klein leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped, raspier. The Uthvark call it expansion. I call it extermination. There was a pause, long enough to let the silence echo. Stan acted without orders. He acted on principle. And right now, as I speak, his ship is under siege, alone, because he chose to stand between slaughter and survival. He looked into the lens and his voice hardened. "This is not politics. This is who we are." Another click. More footage. This time, intercepted images from the Kestrel, red plasma cutting through the void. The enemy, towering, hulking reptilian brutes in exoskeletal armor, moving through the vacuum like apex predators. Uthvark. Klein's voice surged again. "I'm asking the people of Earth, do we wait until they reach our doorstep, or do we remind the galaxy who we are?" The feed cut. But the spark had been lit. Within minutes, Earth's networks detonated with noise. Social feeds erupted. Stand with Stan surged past every algorithm. Millions shared the images of the mauve children in their metal bunkers. Video reactions ranged from tearful civilians to furious veterans slamming fists on desks. Broadcasters struggled to contain the narrative. Politicians were drowned out by voices on the street. Private forums in lunar colonies. Live streamers aboard Mars trade stations. One man screamed into his camera, "We left the galaxy behind, but the war never left us." The message was clear. The people didn't just want intervention, they demanded it. "Kestrel, hull breach imminent on port side." O'Connell's voice tore across the bridge. A chunk of the port wing exploded on the tactical feed. Shrapnel peppered the corridor outside the armory, decompression alarms howling across Deck 2. "Divert power from secondary weapons. Reinforce the port barrier," Stan snapped. "Rerouting now, but we're bleeding reactor coolant," shouted Systems Officer Barrett, wiping blood from a gash above his eyebrow. Stan's fingers flew across the interface, pulling a vector hard. The Kestrel rolled violently, avoiding a barrage from the lead Uthvark war barge. The enemy ships had fanned out in a pincer formation, textbook dominance maneuver, and Stan had already burned half his missiles. "Status of the Yevdra?" "Still alive," O'Connell confirmed. "They're venting atmosphere but hanging on." "Good," Stan growled. "Then we hold." A burst of light flared across the view screen. One of the Uthvark destroyers advanced, a behemoth with hull plates scorched from previous battles. Its front cannon hummed with energy. Then the enemy hailed. The image came through. The Uthvark commander, 8 feet tall, hide covered in blackened chitin, his mandibles twitching with disdain, appeared. "You bleed to protect waste. Pray," the alien rasped in thick, accented galactic basic. "You are soft. Human softness. It is why your kind vanished." Stan stepped forward, expression cold. "We're still here." "You will not be." The image vanished. Stan turned toward Barrett. "Fire torpedoes. Overload the targeting array. Blind them." Torpedoes away. 2 sleek warheads launched from the Kestrel's underbelly, curving wide before erupting into bursts of charged flak. For a moment, the enemy's sensors glitched. That moment was all they needed. "Captain," O'Connell shouted, eyes wide. "New contacts on long-range sensors. Friendly or hostile? Reading Earth fleet signatures, lots of them." Stan stared at the display. 3 new human signatures emerged from the black, then 6, then 9. They dropped in through folded space, ripples of distorted stars vomiting them out one by one. First came the Thunderous, its angular design reminiscent of older Earth warships, but with burnished black armor and twin rail cannons glowing blue. Next was the Aurora, sleeker and faster, its silhouette cutting clean through the dark. Then the Crest, flanked by 2 escort corvettes. Each ship hailed. "Captain Seamus Leone, Thunderous. We heard your call." "Captain Hartman, Aurora. We're here, Stan." "This is Captain Idris Kale of the Crest. Let's finish this." Stan exhaled through his nose. "Form up. Push them off the Yevdra. Use staggered fire patterns. No mercy." The newly arrived ships broke formation and dove into the chaos. The Thunderous led the charge, punching a hole through the enemy flank. The Aurora weaved between Uthvark blasts, delivering surgical strikes to exposed hull joints. The Crest blasted through a smaller Uthvark support vessel, splitting it in half with concentrated fire. Within minutes, the tide turned. The Uthvark, momentarily overwhelmed, began to pull back, losing cohesion as coordinated human firepower battered them from all sides. On the Kestrel's bridge, systems flickered, lights steadied. The ship stopped shuddering. O'Connell glanced back at Stan. "They're retreating." Stan didn't smile. "Good, let them run." Half a world away, Earth's emergency council chamber was in chaos. Senators yelled across glass tables, advisors buried under real-time data feeds, analysts citing precedent and failure. Then the door opened. Klein stepped in alone. He didn't ask for a vote. He didn't ask permission. He spoke 3 words. "Mobilize the fleet." The room went dead silent. General Aiden Roth, head of Earth Strategic Command, stood slowly. "We'll need full authorization." "You have it," Klein replied. "Full?" "I've just ended my career," Klein said, voice flat. "You think I'm worried about protocol?" Roth's nod was sharp, immediate. "Then we go." All around Earth, hangars opened. Engines screamed awake. Carriers, destroyers, stealth craft, orbital guns, systems offline for decades rebooted. Officers called their crews. Dockyards flared to life. Earth was going to war. Dozens of floodlights blinked alive in synchronized bursts as Earth's orbital shipyards roared back to life. The silence of Earth's military docks shattered under the scream of reactors, engines igniting one after another across the spine of the war fleet that had been asleep for years. The hull of the Dauntless gleamed in the twilight of low orbit, while assault cruisers like the Dreadwake, Storm, and Nimbus disengaged from their anchor platforms with thunderous vibrations that could be felt through the observation decks of the command centers. Inside Strategic Command HQ, high above the Atlantic expanse, Admiral Jasper Garrow's voice carried like a hammer across the war room. We move in waves. Phase 1. Rapid deployment units jump directly to coordinates fed from Kestrel's engagement logs. Phase 2. Reinforcement elements lock in behind. You will operate in synchronized grids. You will fire for effect. You will not hold back. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, with silver-white hair buzzed close to the scalp, his jaw stiff like carved stone. His uniform bore the dark insignia of Earth's old war command, long dormant, now resurrected with grim purpose. His presence filled the room. Garrow's eyes swept across the dozens of ship captains seated at the tiered brief platforms. You were all trained for extinction scenarios. This is no longer theoretical. No one spoke. No one needed to. Back aboard the Kestrel, Captain Oliver Stan stood alone in the CIC, systems stabilized, temporary repairs in place. Holo displays hovered around him, streaming data from Earth's command and uplinks to Allied vessels now en route. Wallace, back at the comms console, turned toward him. Sir, Strategic Command has new orders. Direct transmission. They want you on with the Council. Stan nodded. Patch it through. The screen crackled and then cleared. A chamber appeared. Curved walls of obsidian metal, glowing with blue lines of bio-neural circuitry. The Council chamber. Several figures stood or floated within view. The most prominent was High Consul Vess of the Ythani, tall and nearly skeletal, with transparent flesh that revealed a glowing vascular network. Beside him, Commander Nashak of the Dragari, short, quadrupedal, scaled like obsidian glass, watched with unblinking eyes. In the center of the feed appeared Chancellor Klein, patched in remotely. His voice was clipped and direct. This is Captain Oliver Stan of the Kestrel. He speaks for us on this matter. Vess inclined his translucent head. We did not expect your return to the fold, human. Not after so many cycles of silence. Stan crossed his arms. You cried out. We answered. And we're not here to debate policy. We're here to stop the Uthvak. Nashak hissed softly, a gesture of approval among his kind. Their fleets are expanding. They have enslaved the Sarek, corrupted the Grohl. Your forces are small. Klein broke in. They won't be for long. Earth's fleets are launching now. What we need is clearance to act in Council territory, joint operation. There was a pause. Then Vess's voice returned. Granted. We will transmit frontline coordinates and priority targets. Do not fail. The line cut. Stan turned toward Wallace. Get ready. They've just opened the door. From Earth's low-orbit command bays to deep space forward stations, a pulse raced across the void. Authorization to engage, coordinates locked, targets marked. Admiral Garrow stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, arms crossed behind his back. Execute Operation Thunderline. Activate the jumps. The site was unlike anything Earth had seen in decades. Across multiple systems, quantum gates ignited in sequence. Ribbons of blue-white light spiraling inward as space-time folded violently around them. One by one, Earth's ships entered the slipstream. The Thunderous, the Aurora, the Crest, and the rearmed Kestrel among them. The fleet vanished into streaks of light. Inside the CIC of the Kestrel, Stan braced as the ship lurched into the jump. No matter how advanced the stabilizers, the sensation was always the same, being flung sideways through your own bones. And then, they emerged. Chaos. Debris fields stretched across the void, metal carcasses of destroyed cruisers, smoldering husks of orbital platforms. In the distance, a council command station burned, its midsection split like a ruptured artery. It didn't feel like joining a fight. It felt like arriving late to a funeral. The Uthvark were everywhere. Their ships were crude but powerful. Dark iron hulls layered in interlocked slabs, jagged like weapons themselves. And they weren't alone. New vessels emerged from the shadows, taller than the Uthvark warships, organic-looking, with hulls that seemed to ripple. Not Uthvark, not Council, foreign. Wallace's voice cracked over the comms. "Sir, reading unknown biosignatures. That's not just Uthvark tech, that's Sarek." Stan's fists clenched. "Then the rumors are true. They've formed an alliance." From the front of the formation, Leon's voice came through. Thunderous, engaging hostiles, flanking left. "Aurora here," Hartman followed. "Moving to intercept their long-range artillery. Cover us." Stan issued his orders. "O'Connell, pattern hammer strike. Target the rear cruisers. If they're working in tandem, we break the link first." The Kestrel dove into the fray. Enemy fire streaked past the hull as Stan led the charge into a cluster of 3 Uthvark vessels. Plasma beams lit up the void. The crest flanked wide, peeling a destroyer's armor with pinpoint railgun fire. Stan watched as the enemy adjusted formation, but too slowly. Human tactics weren't built for intimidation, they were built for impact. Efficiency, exploit, adapt, strike again. The enemy Sarek ships, amorphous, pulsing with green bioenergy, fired slugs that adjusted trajectory mid-flight. One clipped the Aurora, puncturing its starboard engine. Sparks danced across its side, but Hartman steadied it, retaliating with a full barrage that tore through the alien vessel's midsection. "Shields at 63%, Barrett shouted. "Hold course," Stan barked. "Hit that link node, now!" The Kestrel's main cannon surged, its capacitor flaring red. The shot thundered forward and impacted the side of a Sarek vessel. The explosion fractured its hull like an overripe fruit. Fragments spiraled into the void. The enemy began to recoil. Across the battle space, Earth fleet ships closed in, crisscrossing fire, sudden jumps, synchronized strikes. Garrow's formation operated with cold aggression, exploiting every stutter in the Uthvark reaction. No declarations, no speeches, just clean, precise execution. The humans hadn't returned to negotiate. They'd come to dismantle. And this was only the beginning. "New transmission coming through, sir," Wallace called from comms, sweat clinging to his brow. "It's from Council reconnaissance. Relay drone intercepted a Uthvark command feed." "Put it on," Stan replied. The screen burst to life with a shaky, distorted angle. No sound, just a silent view from a concealed orbital probe. It drifted above a mass of vessels, dozens of heavy cargo freighters chained together in perfect formation. Surrounding them were layers of destroyers, gunships, and escort drones, a full Uthvark ring formation. Cold, immaculate, a steel noose in open space. Stan leaned forward. "Run scans on those cargo signatures." Barrett, already at the sensors, responded quickly. "Confirmed. Life signs aboard every one of them. Thousands, from multiple species. No propulsion signatures. They're being used as shields." "Prison barges," O'Connell muttered. "Goddamn." Barrett turned. "They've built an orbital barricade. Central Nexus is a control hub, reinforced and shielded. That's the power core of the entire setup. Crack that, the ring collapses." Stan didn't speak for a long second. He stared at the image. The freighters adrift like bones in a cage. No windows, no signals, no escape. Inside the Kestrel's forward strategy deck, 2 more captains materialized in hollow form. Captain Seamus Leone, thunderous, stood with his arms crossed. Gaunt, bearded, with sharp green eyes and a permanent line of tension across his brow. Next to him, Captain Victor Liang of the Aurora, tall, barrel-chested, a man who spoke in blunt terms and didn't smile unless the enemy was dying. "Situation's a coffin," Liang said, arms resting on the table. "Any assault breaks containment and risks the hostages. They're locked in tight. Precision won't matter when we're being outgunned 2-1. Leon glanced sideways. "Council drones won't get close. We're the only ones with ships inside the perimeter, and we've got ours. Maybe." Stan nodded. "We don't need precision. We need disruption." The other two turned. "I take the Kestrel into the dead center of that ring," Stan said. "Short jump. 1.3 clicks inside the perimeter, right on top of their nexus." Liang blinked. "That's suicide." Stan kept going. "We overload the reactor on descent, use it to blind their central targeting AI. I'll fire a kinetic round straight into the shield housing. It'll drop the central grid." Leon paced. "You're not making it out of that." Stan looked directly at him. "I know." Silence. Then Liang exhaled. "The second that shield fails, you move in," Stan said. "Everyone. Full burn. Prioritize the freighters. Extract the civilians. Level the rest." Leon's voice lowered. "They'll tear you apart before you even—" "Doesn't matter," Stan cut in. "All I need is 8 seconds. If I get 10, we win." The hollow fell quiet. Then both captains gave the smallest of nods. "Transmission ends," Wallace said from the deck, shutting the channel. Within the hour, the human fleet had moved into position, held just beyond visual range of the Uthvark barricade. Frigates powered down reactors, running silent. Destroyers coasted without navigation lights, their hulls painted black by the void. The ring of ships around the freighters pulsed like a living trap. Uthvark destroyers drifted on slow, steady paths. Their hulls were jagged, plates stacked like teeth. Between them, clusters of fighters moved in lattice patrols. No gaps, no mistakes. Inside the Kestrel, red lights bathed the CIC, emergency systems armed, engines set to overburn, reactor shields were off. O'Connell stepped to Stan's side. "All systems ready. You sure about this?" Stan didn't answer right away. He pulled the command key from his collar chain and slotted it into the console. "Just make sure you're not close when it happens." He turned to Wallace. "Open a line. Direct to EarthGov command. I want Klein." Seconds passed. Then the Chancellor's face filled the screen. Older than even the last time. Jaw tight, eyes rimmed in red. Stan didn't waste time. "I'm going in. There's no other way." Klein didn't argue. He stared through the screen like he was watching a man already gone. "How long?" 5 minutes to breach. 1 to impact. Full exposure. Klein swallowed. "We've got full authorization. Garrow is green. You'll have the fleet the moment the shield cracks." Stan nodded. "Oliver." The use of his name landed heavy. "If you don't make it," Klein said, voice tight, "I want you to know, this mattered. Everything you've done, it mattered." Stan simply replied, "See you on the other side." The channel cut. Engines lit beneath the Kestrel like fire through oil. The ship broke formation, sprinting forward on a silent trajectory. Alone. No signals. No lights. Stan stood in the center of the bridge, strapped in, surrounded by the hum of final warnings and failing diagnostics. Wallace counted down behind him. 3 minutes. Target lock acquired on Nexus Hub. O'Connell at weapons. Kinetic round loaded. Reactor charge at 72%. Barrett. Jump vector calculated. Margin of error, less than 1%. Stan's voice was calm. "Let's bring it down." Outside, the steel ring grew in the view screen, vessels converging in perfect orbit, like links in a cosmic shackle. A prison of war, of silence, of pain. The Kestrel tilted, reactor climbing into redline, jump drive screaming under the pressure. The final phase had begun. There was no way back. The Kestrel surged into the abyss. Everything after this would be written in debris and fire. The jump was so tight, so close to the gravitational edge of the Uthvark's orbital ring, that even the ship's stabilizers screamed under the stress. The entire hull groaned like it might split in half. Inside, the bridge lights dimmed and flickered, the floor vibrating with each passing second. Then, space ripped open. The Kestrel exploded into real space in the dead center of the Uthvark ring, 1.3 kilometers from the Nexus hub. For a half second, everything was still. Then the onslaught began. Red warning lights bathed the CIC. Impact alarms howled. Dozens of Uthvark vessels reacted at once, spinning into formation, weapons charging. Plasma bolts hit the hull within seconds, first from the flanks, then from above. One tore into the port side, slicing a gash straight through Deck 2. Fire and atmosphere vented into the vacuum. Debris scattered behind them in an expanding trail of smoke and flame. "Reactor overload holding at 82%, Barrett shouted from engineering, voice distorted through the haze of comm interference. "We're losing power to dorsal stabilizers." "Keep us on course," Stan ordered, gripping the console. "Get me a shot at that shield core." The view through the main screen shook violently. A sharp turn revealed the target, an angular mass of machinery mounted between two Uthvark control ships, shielded by overlapping hex barrier fields. This was the spine of the barricade, the power source locking the prison in place. He lined up the shot. Inside the targeting array, a dull hum escalated into a blinding white charge. Then, impact. The kinetic round tore free from the undercarriage of the Kestrel, streaking across the void and punching through the outer plating of the shield generator. The result wasn't immediate. It was seismic. A ripple of blue light sparked outward from the core as the internal systems overloaded. Sparks arced from every junction. Secondary explosions burst along the generator's casing. The Uthvark scrambled. Command vessels shifted orientation. Gun turrets realigned. Fighters swarmed toward the Kestrel like hornets. Then the central barrier field flickered. A moment, just one. That's all Stan needed. He stood, gripping the edge of the console with blood on his palm, shoulder dislocated from the last impact, vision blurring through the smoke creeping into the CIC. He hit the comm line. "Now!" he roared. "Hit them with everything! Go! Go!" The stars tore open. Rippling flashes of light lit the entire sector as human warships dropped into real space through synchronized jump gates, one after the other, a storm of metal and fire. The Thunderous led the wave, descending with its forward cannons already spitting fire into the nearest Uthvark frigates. The Aurora burst in from a sharp angle, rotating mid-jump to release a barrage into the flanks of the orbital perimeter. The crest, sleek and jagged, blasted into view with escorts peeling off in tight, aggressive arcs. Then the rest followed: the Storm, the Dreadwake, the Nimbus. A formation of over 30 ships, frigates, carriers, missile corvettes, assault cruisers, all diving into the kill zone with brutal precision. The void ignited. Uthvark formations, caught mid-realignment, couldn't adjust in time. Human rail cannons tore through side plating. EMP drones disabled rear propulsion arrays. Shield barriers shattered under rapid pattern beam attacks. The enemy fleet, once a seamless ring, broke like shattered glass. Inside the Kestrel, fire had spread to half the bridge. Panels burst. Sparks rained down. The floor was littered with debris, and the walls shook from every close-range detonation. Stan remained on his feet, barely. A deep gash ran down his left side, blood soaking through his uniform. One lens of the main screen was shattered, but through the flickering image, he saw the impossible. Ships moving in, dozens, firing with synchronized efficiency, in perfect formation. Strafing runs, cover sweeps, extraction vessels breaking through the remaining debris fields toward the freighters. On the screen, the closest of the cargo ships, marked by Council identification glyphs, began broadcasting distress beacons. They were alive. Wallace's voice crackled through the backup intercom. Extraction teams reporting successful dock on freighters 1 through 3. Hostages confirmed. They're getting them out. Stan let out a breath. Another blast rocked the hull. The deck tilted. He fell to one knee, teeth clenched. Then, a voice. Leon, through the comms. "Barriers down. We're in. Hang on, Kestrel. We've got you." Stan looked out the broken screen, saw the fleet pushing deeper, the barricade collapsing, the enemy pulling back, disorganized and panicked. Smoke and fire streaked across the orbital field like scars carved into the stars. Another voice. Liang. "Hostage freighters secure. All extraction vessels accounted for. You did it, Stan." He leaned against the console, coughing once, wiping blood from his lip. Outside, the last remnants of the Uthvark line buckled under the weight of human assault. Stan didn't speak. He just watched as one by one the freighters were pulled to safety, and behind them, the full might of humanity filled the void. And for the first time in decades, the galaxy saw them. Smoke coiled inside what remained of the Kestrel's bridge. Emergency lights cast the space in a red haze. Panels sparked. Pipes hissed steam from ruptured conduits. Half the main display was shattered, but the lower feed still functioned, enough to show Stan what mattered. A Council transport freighter coasted slowly past the wrecked viewport. Its hull was pockmarked with burn scars, but alive. Docked to it, 3 smaller extraction vessels were pulling survivors from the cargo holds. Then the radio came alive. "This is Captain Liang." The voice crackled through static, low and clipped. "Freighters 6 through 10 secure, no losses on evac teams." A moment later, another voice, lower, rougher, with an edge of fatigue. "Leon here. Final 2 barges confirmed safe. Repeat, all Uthvark containment vessels accounted for. Refugees secure." Stan exhaled once, long and slow. He could taste iron. Blood had pooled down the side of his face and dried into the collar of his uniform. His right arm was pinned under part of a fallen support brace. The smell of scorched metal filled his lungs. Still alive, still here. A tremor rattled through the floor, followed by the dull thump of docking clamps engaging. Moments later, the bridge door hissed open, barely functioning, and a trio of support crew in exo-rescue suits stormed in. "Captain Stan!" one of them yelled, pushing debris aside. "We've got you!" Stan didn't speak. He simply held up 2 fingers, still functional, and pointed toward the command console. "Extract him now," said the lead tech, Lieutenant Malikov, his face hidden behind his helmet visor. Metal screeched as the support beam was lifted. Pain tore through Stan's side, but he didn't scream. He bit down, eyes locked on the flickering hollow feed still active near the command chair. On it, dozens of small vessels, human and council, floated through the field of shattered Uthvark wreckage, guiding survivors to safety. A few minutes later, the Kestrel was left behind, dead metal in the void, as the small reclaimer tug Sparhawk towed its wreckage from the engagement zone. Stan lay strapped inside the medbay of the tug's primary cabin. Blood pressure steady, bones fractured, but conscious. "Get me a line," he rasped. "I need Chancellor Klein." The medic hesitated. "Sir, you need... now." The line was opened. Klein appeared on the cracked med screen, his image flickering as the ship's systems struggled to stabilize the relay. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. Stan didn't wait. "Mission complete," he said flatly. "You can kill those bastards now." Klein didn't flinch. Understood. He turned slightly, speaking off-screen. "Garrow, it's go time." Inside the command deck of the Tyrehome, Admiral Jasper Garrow stood over the central tactical interface, arms behind his back, eyes locked on the updated data feeds. "Confirm target packages," he ordered. Across the war table, updated intel streamed from the decrypted Uthvark data cores pulled from the refugee freighters. Each cargo vessel had contained not just hostages, but Uthvark infrastructure terminals, built to manage containment logistics. The data inside was raw, unfiltered. Base coordinates, supply routes, fleet mobilization patterns, even fallback locations. Captain Idris Kale, overseeing data integration aboard the Crest, transmitted his analysis over the secure link. They were sloppy, arrogant. They kept everything centralized, every system piggybacking on these transports. We've got complete visibility. Confirmed, added Barrett from the Kestrel, patching in through the rescue tug's auxiliary systems. Cross-checking the coordinates now. At least 9 command centers and 3 construction yards, all active. Garrow's expression didn't change. Disseminate to fleet, assign priority strikes, coordinated barrages, no delays. He tapped his console. All ships, prepare for final offensive. The Council's chamber went dark. A secure conference had been initiated. Remote representatives beamed in from warships, bunkers, and mobile centers scattered across a dozen systems. The center screen displayed footage from the rescue operation. Uthvark ships in retreat, human formations surrounding evacuee vessels, debris fields glowing from fresh detonations. Consul Vess of the Yathani leaned forward, his pale flesh glowing faintly beneath his translucent exosuit. Your forces reacted faster than we anticipated. Chancellor Klein's image sat centered, his voice calm. They were ready. Commander Nashak of the Dragari, his scaled head twitching with agitation, studied the transmission logs. Your fleet coordination exceeds known projections. This is not the Earth that left the Council. It's the one that came back, Klein replied. A beat of silence passed. Then Vess spoke again. You have our support. The Council authorizes full joint offensive. Across the fleet, new attack vectors were issued. The Thunderous, Aurora, Crest, Nimbus, and Storm aligned into strike formations. Earth Fleet's second and third waves initiated staging maneuvers. Carriers launched drone swarms for orbital scans. Scout frigates moved to shadow the Uthvark fallback routes. Inside the Tarholm, Garrow stood unmoving. Execute, he said. From the shattered edge of the battlefield, humanity launched its next move, not for survival, but for finality. The Uthvark had lit the fire. Now Earth would bury it. The offensive began before the wreckage cooled. Within 37 minutes of Chancellor Klein's final order, over 100 Earth Fleet vessels had reoriented across 6 sectors. Attack formations launched without ceremony. No speeches, no flags, just coordinates, targets, and a single directive. End them. The Tirholm led the first wave into Uthvark-controlled space, slicing into the Veskari field, once a central stronghold. Surveillance data confirmed the presence of a forward manufacturing node hidden within a shattered moon. The Storm and Dreadwake breached orbit in perfect sync, releasing tandem barrages of magnetokinetic warheads and high-frequency rail bursts. Within seconds, the Uthvark outpost detonated inward, molten slag flooding its hangar decks. No survivors. From there, it accelerated. The Aurora and Crest dropped into a mining belt at Kashur Reach, where Uthvark vessels attempted to regroup under a jagged communications array. Liang deployed suppression drones ahead of the jump, blinding the fleet's sensors 2 seconds before re-entry. The result, full kill sweep in under 4 minutes. Human ships didn't stay to scan the wreckage. They moved. On the outer rim of Sector 41 Beta, 2 Uthvark command centers lit up in panic as the Nimbus and Thunderous appeared from folded space. The Uthvark sentries scrambled for defensive alignments, but found only silence. By the time they realized what was happening, the humans were already inside their minimum range. Inside the Tirholm, Admiral Garrow stood with arms locked behind his back, watching the tactical map cascade with enemy loss signals. Sector after sector blinked red, then white, neutralized, erased. Captain Idris Kale patched in from the Crest, his voice unreadable. Sir, target Alpha 5 eliminated. Secondary fleet node destroyed. No resistance. Confirmed, Garrow replied. Next vector. They didn't celebrate. They accelerated. The Uthvark began to run. In the Colon expanse, a heavy freighter disguised as a research vessel fled through collapsing asteroid corridors. 3 human frigates tracked its heat signature without even powering shields. When it engaged its hyperdrive, the Aurora fired a single graviton spike into its jump path. The ship tore itself in half, mid-phase. In the Parax dust region, a cluster of Uthvark leaders attempted a final migration. Their vessels were protected by older Sarek tech, biological armor hulls, thought to be sensor invisible. They were wrong. The Thunderous tracked them through gravitational ripples and used a wide-angle disruptor grid to collapse their wake field. They didn't even make it to jump velocity. But not all were caught. Some Uthvark flagships vanished through hyperspace fractures. Unknown destinations, no beacons, no trace. Even Earth fleet couldn't intercept them all, yet they had no time to look back. The final stronghold was a floating defense cluster near the remnants of Garluk Prime, once a thriving water world, now nothing but frozen dust. Uthvark ships, fragmented, disoriented, cornered, tried to rally for one last stand. Inside the main command barge, Commander Volrek, scarred from neck to clavicle with exposed plating and a fractured crest, snarled at his crew. His voice was a hiss through cracked mandibles. "Line the forward batteries! Strike now!" "No formation," one of his officers muttered. A younger male, trembling under the weight of failure. "They come from every direction." On his tactical display, the human fleet emerged like phantoms. No grand entrance, no energy spike, no warning. They bled into the battlefield like shadows with knives. Volrek looked up and saw them. The Tyrholm. At point. Railfire lit the void. Inside the wreckage, Volrek stood, shoulders heaving, bridge burning around him. His last cruiser was caving in. Air hissed out of ruptured valves. Bodies floated, limbs twisted, motionless. The comm buzzed. A human voice came through. "Leone. This is Captain Seamus Leone, Earth Fleet. You are surrounded. Lower your systems." Volrek staggered forward, claws scraping metal. "Never," he growled. Behind him, a blast door blew inward. Troopers in powered boarding suits stormed through, plasma rifles up. Volrek looked once at the dead, then at the men now entering. 1 second passed, then another. He knelt. A beacon lit green. Across remaining Uthvark nodes, signals began to pulse, fragmented, desperate. Transponders initiated surrender protocols. One after another, the remaining ships powered down. Defensive clusters spun to drift. Engine cores cooled. No words, no glory, just collapse. On the Tyrholm, Admiral Garrow turned to his communications officer. "Record the sequence. Confirm surrender vectors. Feed it to Council Relay." The young officer, Lieutenant Horner, swallowed. "Yes, sir. All fronts showing disengagement. Last pockets have folded." Garrow said nothing. He stared at the map, now filled with the gray signatures of Uthvark silence. Then he tapped his console. Broadcast the report. In the halls of the Council, footage played on loop. Images captured from multiple vessels, from helmet cams, from tactical feeds, from satellite debris. The speed was what silenced them. An elder of the Surin, a gelatinous species with hardened nerve exolayers, whispered across the chamber to no one in particular. They said the humans had turned inward. No one responded. Others sat unmoving, eyes fixed on the frozen last frame of the feed, Uthvark destroyers drifting, power dead, crews still aboard. In the background, faint comm static pulsed like a heartbeat. And the galaxy began to realize, this war wasn't just over. It had been claimed. Debris drifted like ash across the stars. What remained of the Uthvark fleet now floated in silence. Burned out hulls, fractured engines, escape pods cracked open by rail fire. Here and there, a few of their vessels still moved, limping through the void on ruptured drives, engines flickering like dying embers. The Sparhawk, a compact support vessel retrofitted for recovery, glided just beyond the battlefield. Inside, Captain Oliver Stan sat in a reinforced med chair, ribs bandaged, shoulder braced. The ship's observation bay wrapped around him in a semicircle of transparent alloy, offering an unobstructed view of the remnants. From this high vantage, the battlefield no longer looked like war. It looked like aftermath, like the corpse of something ancient and violent finally laid bare. "Report," he muttered. Wallace's voice filtered through the internal comms. Last Uthvark signatures traced to outbound vectors in Quadrant Z9. 2 vessels engaged and destroyed. 1 escaped into deep field, unknown destination. And the rest? Scattered, mostly dead. Surrender flags confirmed across all known stations. Command chains broken. Stan leaned his head back, eyes half closed. His chest rose and fell with the labored rhythm of someone who hadn't slept in over a day. The comm crackled again. "Sir, there's something else. A few of the high command figures, they're just gone. No trace in the wreckage. No bodies, no transponders. Survivors? More like disappearances." Stan said nothing. The silence lingered. In the viewport, another massive Uthvark dreadnought rotated slowly along its axis, lifeless, the glow from its engine nacelles fading out frame by frame. Scorch marks painted its side. Human ship silhouettes passed by in clean formation, scanning, confirming, moving on. Stan tapped the side of the chair, where the console monitor blinked quietly with news. The Nimbus had just completed a deep field sweep and confirmed an abandoned Uthvark colony in the Saros Belt, emptied before the humans arrived. No resistance, no weapons, just empty stone and broken statues. Psychological withdrawal. The Thunderous had begun docking procedures with Council relief barges. Refugees were being processed. Medical crews, mostly humans now, worked silently alongside Yathani and Dragari staff. He swiped to the next feed. The Aurora had just transmitted confirmation. The last of the freighters was now secured. Liang's crew had salvaged several blocks of encrypted Uthvark records. Possibly war plans, possibly something older, possibly nothing at all. Stan stared at the screen and felt a strange stillness wash over him. Not relief, not victory, something quieter. Below him, Council ships hovered across the field like sentinels, flanked by the angular warframes of Earth's finest. Coordinated, united, efficient, the response to an atrocity, but also a return. He looked at his reflection in the glass and saw a different man. The line buzzed again. "Captain." Malakov's voice came through, calm, direct. "Support craft ready to dock. Orders." Stan didn't answer right away. Then, "Send me the high feed, the council chamber." A few seconds passed. Then it appeared. The chamber was dim. Cold light seeped from floor panels, the high ceiling lost in shadows. The emergency session had been called, but no one spoke. Delegates sat in a half-circle around the central screen, faces barely lit by its glow. Some leaned forward, others leaned back. All were silent. The Yathani representative, Consul Vess, stood motionless in his transparent bio-exo, hands clasped behind his back. The glowing veins in his body pulsed slowly, as if stunned. Next to him, Commander Nashak of the Dragari, stone-skinned, quadrupedal, lips drawn tight, watched with his mouth slightly open, a rare expression of exposed thought. On the screen, footage rolled in silence. First, the Kestrel diving into the ring. Then, the impact, the blast, the breach. Stan's voice distorted through the comms. "Now, hit them with everything. Go, go." Dozens of human ships emerging from light. The rail fire, the formation collapse. Freighters pulled to safety. The final flagships powering down. Images repeated. Different angles, different ships, same outcome. One by one, the delegates stopped breathing. The doors at the back of the chamber hissed open. No announcement, no fanfare. Malcolm Klein stepped in. His steps echoed, loud against the polished stone floor. He wore no military decoration, no speech in hand. Just the same black coat, open at the collar, and the eyes of a man who had seen enough. He walked past the rows of silent figures, toward the center of the chamber. Then he stopped. The screens were still playing the same moment. Stan's ship drifting inside the breach, plasma fire around it, shadowed by a dozen more human vessels arriving through fractured space. Klein looked at it for a long time. Then he turned. Eyes met him across the room. The Yithani, the Dragari, the Surin, the Haraki, the Olshem, a dozen more species, all watching, waiting. No one said a word. He walked to the far side of the room, where the council circle ended, to the one seat that had remained empty since the beginning of the war. Klein stood behind it. His hand rested on its back. Still, no one spoke. The silence stretched. Then, from somewhere in the room, low and rasped, barely above a whisper, they came back. A pause. Then another voice, brittle and soft. "They're back." Klein didn't react. He looked once more to the screens. Stan's silhouette stood among the ruins, and in the stillness that followed, the truth settled in like a chill across the chamber. They had returned. "Hey, you're still here. That's awesome. Hope you had a great time with the story. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really makes a huge difference to the channel. And hey, I've got something else for you. I've chosen another story that I think you'll really enjoy. Just click the card right here, or hit this one to jump into the full playlist. See you in the next one.